from the BBC News One. So it's goodbye from me, and on BBC One now we'll join the BBC's news teams where you are. Have a very good afternoon.
Welcome to Look North, the main news from our region this lunchtime. The parents of a Sheffield teacher who killed himself following a gambling addiction say urgent action is needed to change gambling laws. And relief for Leeds fans about how to avoid being in the same predicament next season. Good afternoon. The parents of a young teacher from Sheffield who took his own life while struggling with a gambling addiction have described the government's response as disappointing and inadequate. Jack Ritchie was just 24 when he died 5 years ago. Well, in March, a coroner ruled that he'd been failed by woefully inadequate warnings and treatments. The government has now promised a comprehensive review of gambling laws, but Jack's parents, Liz and Charles, say more urgent action is needed. Thomas Morgan reports.
Jack was a real star. He was very popular.
He was a very, very happy baby, and he retained that kind of cheeriness throughout his life, really.
Jack Ritchie began gambling with his friends as a teenager at school. He quickly became hooked, so he self-excluded himself from the local betting shop along with the help of his parents, but then the addiction went online.
He didn't bet ridiculous amounts, and I think again that's one of the myths of gambling, is that Jack always gambled pretty much within his means.
After 7 years of betting at just 24 years of age, Jack took his own life, blaming himself for his addiction.
It was like a bomb had gone off. A 5-year-old knows that smoking kills. Who knows that gambling kills?
The type of gambling Jack was into was the most addictive. Nearly half of all people playing online casino games and slots are addicted or at risk. And more than 400 suicides every year in England alone are due to this issue. Earlier this year, a coroner ruled that the information about the dangers and associated treatments available were woefully inadequate to Jack. And senior coroner David Urpeth added Jack did not understand that being addicted to gambling was not his fault. Last week, his parents received the UK government's response to the coroner's Prevention of Future Deaths report. What's your response to what the UK government have said following the coroner's report?
To be honest, it was pretty disappointing.
Why is that?
I think it's inadequate in that it doesn't feel as if it has recognised the real scale of the problem.
Later this year, a white paper is due to be published on this issue, and his parents are looking for affordability checks of as little as £100 or so for those losing money online to be a part of it. But above all, they're fighting to make sure that this doesn't happen to any other family.
I can't see us living to see the changes that need to happen, to be honest. We're in our 60s, and this is worse than smoking.
Thomas Morgan, BBC News.
Liz and Charles Ritchie speaking there. Well, in other news, the former Conservative MP for Wakefield is due to be sentenced this afternoon. Imran Ahmed Khan is due before Southwark Crown Court after he was found guilty of sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy. He's been warned that all options, including immediate custody, are being considered. His legal team has lodged an appeal. And meanwhile, the Yorkshire Party are the latest to announce their candidate for the forthcoming by-election in Wakefield, which is taking place as a result of Imran Ahmed Khan's conviction. They've selected former Conservative councillor David Herson, who left the Conservatives in 2019. That was in protest of Boris Johnson's policies, in particular over Brexit. Well, in sport, celebrations will continue today after Leeds United secured their place in the top flight of English football. Fans had a nail-biting wait with their team starting the day in the bottom three, but Leeds came away with that all-important win, beating Brentford 2-1.
It means everything. If we'd have gone down, it'd just been a nightmare, but the fact we stayed up, it means everything to us.
Just being part and parcel of everything from a kid, so it really means the world, it does.
I'm absolutely shattered. I've been shaking the whole time.
Well, earlier I spoke to former Leeds player and manager Simon Grayson and asked him how he reacted to the team managing to avoid relegation.
Well, I think like everybody else connected with Leeds, huge amount of relief, happiness, joyness. It was just, it was as if the club had been promoted again from League One, the Championship, but just as important. So it was one of relief, and every emotion that the roller coaster ride of supporting Leeds United was all thrown into one last day of the season, and even the last few minutes of the season, really.
And what does it mean to you personally? Because you're a former player and manager. What does it mean to you?
It's just an unbelievable feeling for the football club to survive this year, because I don't think a lot of people really give them much chance in giving the last game of the season and who Leeds were playing and who Burnley were playing. So again, to survive the second season is massive, and hopefully it can be a platform to build going forward for the football club.
And let's talk money then. Financially, what do Leeds United need to do?
Well, I think it'll be an opportunity for the new coach, Jesse March, who obviously just came into the club recently, to get his own players in this new window that's coming. There's probably going to be a influence of money from the San Francisco 49ers as well. So there'll be different ways of looking at the squad, and I'm sure there'll be investment into the football club, into the playing staff, other things that maybe need to be financed as well. But I think the lesson they'll probably need to learn from this year is that the squad probably wasn't the strength in depth that it needed. But I think in the Premier League you do need a bigger size squad, and I think that was the unfortunate thing, that when injuries came around they weren't able to cope with it. But it's a lesson learned, survived, and hopefully move forward as a football club and as a city in general.
Simon Grayson, thank you very much. Finally, a total of 16 Ukrainian circus performers have arrived in South Yorkshire, and they say they will have a show ready for opening night on Wednesday. As we've reported here on Look North, Circus Cortex has battled the war in Ukraine, as well as visa delays and transport problems, but they're determined the show will go on. The performers are rehearsing like mad at the Sheffield Transport Sports Ground in Meadowhead, and they're putting some very traumatic experiences behind them. They're hoping audiences will support them, as they want the show to be a symbol of hope and joy over brutality and violence.
We're going to let people know that most of the cast are Ukrainian, and it means the world to them to be able to perform here and do what they love. And even their hearts, I'm sure their hearts are still at home, because they've left their family behind and the ordeal is not over. But while they're performing, we're hoping they can take their mind off for a couple hours each show.
Looks good, doesn't it? Right then, Paul, what's the weather going to be like?
Where's your gag? From one clown to another. She bottled it. She's been working on it all morning. Let me show you the headline for the next few hours. It looks as though it's going to be mostly dry, but rather cloudy. The risk of the odd shower. A bit of a mixed week. We've got 1 or 2 weak weather fronts to push through Wednesday and Thursday, bringing a bit of patchy rain. Amounts will be small, very little in eastern areas. I think the good news is, as we head into Friday and the weekend, it settles down, so some nice weather to come by then. But we've got rain to the southeast, up to the north at the moment. We're avoiding all of it, and I think that'll be the way of it for the rest of this afternoon. Just the odd shower, a lot of cloud around, but with a little bit of brightness in places. It doesn't feel too bad. 16 or 17 degrees the high. So as we head through this evening, I think we may well see some patchy rain developing across more eastern parts of Yorkshire, slipping into the North Sea, the odd shower elsewhere. Otherwise, it's dry with clear spells, and we'll see temperatures coming in at 9 or 10 degrees. So brighter day on Tuesday. We should be off to a dry, bright start with some sunshine, just the odd shower in the west. But we'll see showers breaking out through the day. So the afternoon, a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers. Feeling a little bit fresher as well, with top temperatures coming in at 15 or 16 degrees. Patchy rain at first on Wednesday, brighter later in the day. And that's the forecast.
Thanks, Paul. Amy will be back with your evening Look North. Goodbye.
You went on with it.